Hello and welcome to the Relax It's Retirement podcast with your host, Josh Leonard, where we talk about transitioning into retirement with intent. I'm Wendy McConnell. Well, hey there, Josh. How are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you today, Wendy?
I'm good. I feel good because I'm back doing the introduction. It was really difficult trying to get you to figure out how to do that yourself last
It-
time when I was
It's
having
a
some tech issues.
it's a very long and detailed intro. So,
Yes, it takes like half the show.
but listeners, we've come back. We got Wendy on today. Angela is joining us from our office today, which I've promised for 2 past episodes that she's going to come on, but she's on today. So welcome, Ange. How are you?
I'm good today. Thanks for having me.
Good, good. Yeah, we thought one of the increasing issues that we see clients have, and it has certainly been in the news over the last group of years, is just identity theft. And I think especially for those older Americans, they are quite often the target for several reasons. Ange has really become our in-house expert on it. She's helped clients navigate through different financial scams, that maybe they were attacked or attempts at identity theft. So we thought we'd talk through that really big topic today and give some guidance so listeners have some framework to know maybe if they are a target, how to detect those scams before you get in too much trouble, and then what to do if your identity or information has been stolen.
Okay.
So let's jump in. Ange, how does identity theft happen?
Oh, it happens all kinds of different ways. Most commonly, you open an email, you get a phone call, or you get a text. It's something called a phishing scam, where somebody's trying to get some of your information. Has anybody gotten the phone call that says, "Hi, this is Windows"? Well, Windows isn't a company. Windows is a software made by Microsoft. Well, Windows doesn't call you. They're certainly not calling your house to say, "Oh, hey, we know you have a computer problem." Most people don't. And they get you to log onto your computer. They have you download a piece of software in that steals all of your information. So please, you get the Windows phone call. It's not somebody coming to clean your Windows. It's not somebody from Microsoft. It's a scam. You might get a text message.
Yeah, I think text messages. We've also seen through email, like the Nigerian prince, right? Where
Yes.
you're
There is no
somehow
Nigerian prince
related.
that's going to give you $3 million.
That's right. That's right. So that should be suspicious to you, but certainly that's a ridiculous. But some might appear to be Amazon or another company. They might be appearing. So that's certainly one way that a lot of people will fall into these scams as well. Go ahead, Angie. You were talking about texting as well.
Right. Or you'll get an email that says, "This is Facebook and someone's tried to log into your account." Nobody can log into your account without you. There's two-factor authentication set up with them. Therefore, they can't get in. So it's a bunch of hooey. They're just trying to get you to change your password through their system so they can steal your information and then clone your account at Facebook. Texts that you'll get could be, "Hey, we've locked your credit card. This is the IRS. You owe us X dollars. We'll be at your house tomorrow morning." Well, nobody from the IRS is going to be at your house tomorrow morning following a text message. They're not going to lock you up in jail for not paying your taxes through some text message to your phone. So don't even pay attention to them. The other things that we see are somebody messages you through Messenger on Facebook that says, "You're so beautiful. I love you. Would you be my new girlfriend? Would you marry me?" Well, someone A does not love you if they have never met you. End the conversation now. And a lot of them are military scams. "Oh, hi, I'm General so-and-so from the military. Can you send me $100 gift card?" No general in the U.S. military needs you to send them a $100 gift card. They do not need you sending stuff through Cash App. Stop it already. And if you dig a little deeper, there's usually a fraud associated with it and a bunch of people that have already been scammed, and you can go back in through that way. So
Yeah, and I think particularly like for us as a company, there's a risk when you're opening up some of these phishing emails. It might even just be an attachment to the email that latches onto the system and is giving whoever that hacker is access to the database. Any of those openings are how we've seen a lot of these large scale collection of data happen, whether it's like credit cards through Target, or a lot of sensitive information was hacked into through the Move It data breach last year. And just helped a lot of clients file paperwork in association with that. But there it was actually a database that was meant to be safe for pensions and annuities and other financial institutions, where they were actually getting like names, addresses, phone numbers, and social security numbers. So once someone gets that information, it's not only them trying to do something in your name, but once they have that information, it could be 2 or 3 years down the line as well. So you need to be careful. One, if they're getting the information, try to prevent that. But also, if they have it, you need to be aware of that. So like in the Move It data breach, any company that knows that it was hacked in association with this, they had to send out letters to policyholders or pensioners in regards to that.
And last time I looked, I think there were 2,500 organizations and companies that were hacked as part of that, which is insane. I mean, I got notices from 3 different places about the Move It breach. So I set up credit monitoring with all 3 of the credit bureaus that are being used there. Or sorry, all 3 of the credit monitoring services.
I think that's it. I think credit monitoring is a huge way that you can determine if that information has been stolen, and monitor if, you were involved in a data breach, which at this point, some of our information has been breached through one system or another. I think we need to operate in the assumption that someone has some version of our information, and we need to be watching it. So the credit monitoring is such an easy way to take a look at that. All the 3 major credit bureaus, there's things like Credit Karma as well. They'll notify you if there's a major change in your credit.
Right. Like Pete and I were over at BJ's Wholesale one day, and they were doing a special where you could get what you pay for your membership back for, as part of getting this credit card. And then it gave you X dollars off on gas and a bunch of other perks. So I went in on my phone, I unlocked my credit, hit the button. In 3 seconds, I had 4 notices from different monitoring companies telling me that someone had accessed my credit. Well, I know they did because I unlocked it so they could do that. And once we were done and it was approved from Capital One, I locked them all back up again and we're done. I got 3 more saying my credit was locked.
So if you're not aware, on a sidebar, BJ's is like Costco or Sam's Club.
It's just closer to our office than the other ones.
We're familiar with those. We have those too.
Okay.
Here.
Yeah, nothing like buying in bulk. It's really important.
The more you buy, the more you save.
That's right. Unless you throw it away.
Toothpaste for the next 12 years.
As long as it doesn't expire prior to you using it, right? Right. Anyway, so credit monitoring is a great way, to look at that, looking at those sudden drops. Most credit card companies now will put your credit score on the statement as well, or they have a tool that you can look online. So, if you put things on a credit card regularly too, that's an easy way to monitor it. When you go in to pay the monthly bill, look, if your credit score went down by 100 points, there's probably something going on there. You want to dig deeper into that to try to figure out why. I think other red flags or ways that you might know are receiving collection letters or calls about debts that you don't have. That one can go both ways.
Calls you.
Yeah, I mean, the collection calls can go both ways. There's been cases where people are getting just fake calls. That's not even a debt that someone else took out. It is someone trying to get the information to then create a debt for you. So be very suspicious of things like that. But if you're getting those frequently, that might be an indication that someone has already gotten a hold of your information. IRS letters, 1099 forms, if you're getting them coming up here on tax time, and you didn't really work that job, or you didn't make money on an account or anything like that, that is also a pretty big red flag that you should dig a little bit deeper into.
Definitely. And watch for things like letters from the IRS that says, hey, you earned $50,000 more than you claimed on your taxes. And you're looking at your 1099s and your W-2s going, no, I didn't. you need to call the IRS right now. You need to call Social Security, and you need to call the Federal Trade Commission. So you got a lot of phone calls you need to make. But we'll
And
get
they're
to
Yeah,
so
those
easy
in
to
a
get
little
a
bit.
hold of, those people.
they
Oh, it's
are.
special.
Well, we
Mhm.
will link in the show notes how, a link to the FTC site that shows you how to file that report. So that's an important thing to do. You are signing an affidavit that, this information was taken. That enables them to then say, hey, you know what? There's an existing precedent that this information's out there. It might not be the actual consumer. A police report's going to help you in supporting the same thing. So filing the police report locally, even if you're not doing anything with it at the time, you're creating that record saying, hey, I know my information's out there. Something might happen. Like Ange does, and like Ange had mentioned, locking your credit at all 3 credit bureaus is a great way. Now with technology too, she can unlock it, or any consumer can unlock it when you need to access it. But if you don't need to access it, it's not like most people are applying for new loans every day. You certainly shouldn't be. So it could be locked as a default setting. And then again, if it's known that you are in a breach, setting up a credit monitoring service is super helpful as well. I know in like the Move It breach, Ange had worked with many clients to set up the free credit monitoring service that they were offering as part of it. Many times when a company is hacked, that's one of the things they do to help limit the liability, not only for them, but for the consumers there as well.
In addition, if you think that your identity has been stolen, or that you have accounts that have had extra stuff added to them, or it's just not quite right, contact your homeowner's insurance. Like, I know I'm at Nationwide, and I'm not, being their spokesperson for today, but there is a line on there that if my identity's stolen, they'll cover a big chunk of the cost of that. And when you're making phone calls to any of these companies, like I'm just going to throw Discover out there. You get a note that says, hey, you owe this Discover card. Well, you've never had a Discover card in your life, and you call them. A, you want to talk to their fraud department, and B, you want to write down the name, the date, and the time that you called and who you spoke with. Because what you need to do is build a report that if the police need to go back on something, you can give them the best information that they can have in their hands to kind of help you solve your problem.
She's good at this, Josh.
I know, she's done
I
it
spend
many
too
times.
much time doing it. I spend too much time doing it. And most of it's something very innocent.
Yeah.
We've had clients will get a phone call and somebody gets them to take action. We had one very dear client who ended up in the car running over to the bank because they told him that they stole a significant amount of money out of her checking account. Well, it really wasn't her checking account. And she walked into the bank, and the bank manager said, who are you on the phone with? And she said, well, this is PNC, and this is what they said is going on with my account. And she looked her in the face and said, hang up the phone immediately. It's a scam. So the bank manager knew, because they'd been down that road before, and she wasn't the first person. And it's really
and that's, I think that's the scary thing, is a lot of these scams have become so sophisticated that they're connecting to you. They're playing on that fear and immediacy. Like, you need to do something right this second. So then we or the general consumer moves into panic mode instead of actually thinking through what they're asking you to do, right? There's not too many times in life where the IRS has contacted you and said, if you don't pay us today, we're going to put you in jail, right? It doesn't really work that way. There's a series of
the
events.
IRS will send you a letter.
Yeah, that doesn't come quickly. And they don't typically tell you it's today or we're taking you to jail. They just come take you at that point.
Exactly. And the IRS does not use Cash App.
Yeah,
exactly.
Or gift
Cash
card.
App, Venmo, PayPal, and gift cards are not something the IRS will ever take.
Yeah, and that is typically a pretty big red flag too. If someone wants you to give them a gift card, they want that because it's not traceable, right? If you have to deposit it into an account, well, that's actually a lot more traceable than a iTunes gift card to pay the IRS, which logically, when you slow down and think about it, doesn't make too much sense, right?
No, it doesn't.
But I mean, we've seen all kinds of different versions of that. I think the bank ones have been scary. We had one client that had a checkbook they ordered new checkbooks and someone stole the checkbooks out of the mail and had used their routing numbers and bank account numbers to access funds. So in that case, you need to get a whole new bank account, which is certainly an inconvenience, but by kind of refreshing that, just like if you have a credit card, a fraudulent charge on your credit card, you should be getting a new issued credit card. You should get the new numbers and not keep using the same numbers, because if somebody has it, they're going to keep trying to tap into it.
Do you think that we should still be putting the routing numbers on checks? Like, I mean, it seems like it doesn't happen nearly as much as I would think, but it's such an easy way to get into someone's bank account.
It is. But your debit card's a really easy way to get in too. And I can't tell you how many people use their debit card at a gas station and the card gets scammed or skimmed because somebody's put a device in that.
Yeah.
If there's tap to pay, for God's sake, use tap to pay, because it's not recording your numbers.
Oh, really?
The same way. The skimmer can't pick that up. If you stick the card in, it can read that metal strip.
See, and I've heard other things that saying that's not secure to do the tap. Now,
The tap
you're
is way
saying,
more secure.
huh?
Tapping
Well,
is way more secure. But don't use your debit card at the gas station.
I would
well,
say
and
that's the
and
bigger thing. Yeah. Have a layer
right.
of insulation. I think
Yeah,
Exactly.
and we actually started doing that a couple of years ago. I use my debit card for everything. I don't want to put things on the credit card, but I had to make an exception for that because the skimming is a big problem.
it
It
is.
is. And watch ATM machines as well, especially ones that you're not physically walking into the bank. Like, again, I bank at PNC. I walk in the door if I need to use the bank machine, and I'm on every camera there is in the bank, and I put my card in, and I know that it's going to be fairly safe. If I'm at the one in XYZ, let's call it a 7-Eleven, might not be quite as secure. The one at the bowling alley is probably not that secure. Much easier to get access to them for somebody with a skimmer because nobody's watching that every second. So
Yeah,
be careful where you use them. And it's a lot easier to kill a credit card than it is to kill your debit card.
yeah.
Because there's a
Yep.
lot of stuff attached to your debit card.
Yeah, or if you have like, hey, whether it is at the bowling alley, sometimes I just need to get cash out whenever I'm at a location. Well, for one, typically that's the most expensive place to get cash is convenience ATMs. But if that is something that occurs for you, have a separate account that isn't the primary place where all your income's going. So if something does happen to it, it's not all of your money, right? It would still be an inconvenience. You could still, have some short-term losses while you're going through this, but it doesn't totally handicap you. I think the worst cases that we've seen is that it's the primary checking account attached to the savings, which is where they have all of their money or all of their short-term money, which, becomes a problem quite quickly.
Especially because most people link their checking and their savings together, so that if for whatever reason you might accidentally overextend your checking account or overspend from there, that savings automatically fills in. Guess what happens if somebody steals your card?
They get all the
You
money in
have
the
a
savings account too.
you have a huge mess on your hands.
Yeah.
So, use credit wisely, but if you get the card, pay it off at the end of the month and you're done.
Yeah. I think it's prudent with this to keep the mindset that we are going to be hacked. Our information will be stolen at some point if it hasn't already. So let's act accordingly to monitor. We talked about credit monitoring, which is huge. I think password security is another big one. Your dog's name and your address is findable in about 2 seconds online. So you need to make it a little bit more complicated. There's password keepers. There's different versions there where you're able to generate totally random strings of letters and numbers that are a lot harder to access. So if we're at 16 characters, the probability of somebody being able to guess that is a lot lower than, guessing your dog's name and the street you live on or the address or whatever it might be. I think we've all done that. But the further we can move away from that, the safer we're going to be. I think the other thing with passwords there, as Ange mentioned before, is second factor authentication. So having that secondary, whether it's sending a text code to your cell phone, in that case, then someone would have to know your login information and also have your cell phone. So the probabilities of them being able to get into that account are lower. You can also use second factor authentication via email or other things, but think about how someone would have those two pieces of information and how you can reduce that probability.
Exactly. And watch, if somebody steals your cell phone, immediately call the carrier and kill
With
that
what?
phone.
No, I'm just kidding.
My niece lives
A
in New York
payphone.
City, and she's walking down the street looking at her phone, being a typical, millennial, typing on her little phone, and somebody just grabbed it and ran down the street. Well, all of her
Wow.
banking was on there, all of her credit cards were on there, her
And it was
retirement plan
open
at work was on there,
because she was
and
using it.
it was open. It was really easy.
Yeah.
So please call your provider once you get back home, or once you get somewhere that you can handle that. Additionally, file a police report, please. The other thing that we didn't talk about these yet are IRS scams and Social Security scams, where somebody calls and says, "I have your Social Security number," or you get a 1099 in the mail for a job you never did. Well, somebody's using it. Or you go to file your tax return and it says, "You've already filed. We can't take your return." Please contact the IRS. Please contact Social Security. Please contact the Federal Trade Commission. And for God's sake, call the police. You really need to back those up. The IRS does have PIN numbers for a reason.
Mhm.
And that's how you can file your tax return, or you can go get your information that you need. And somebody else can't do that. And if you've already locked that, nobody can get in there and do bad things yet.
We will link in the show notes how to set up your PIN with the IRS as well to help add that additional layer of security.
When it comes to the phone, so when I call the provider, does that shut down everything on the phone?
Nope, it just shuts the line off the phone. So the only way they can use your phone is they got to keep it open. And as soon as they log onto Wi-Fi, they can still use it, but you want to kill that phone. You want to kill the number on it. So they have to log onto a Wi-Fi. Now it's traceable. Because now there's an IP address. If the IP address is being used after the, like Verizon or AT&T or whoever it is has killed that phone,
Right.
they know something's going on.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
And I think with your phone too, like use biometric, don't make your PIN 1, 2, 3, 4. Make it hard to get into your phone to begin with too. Now, granted, if someone takes it out of your hand and they're able to maintain it not locking for some period of time, but that's a little bit harder than just not having any security on your phone at all. Nowadays, that's it. We have credit cards linked in your phone, email, all of your personal data for the most part is linked in your phone. So treat it as such, right? Don't leave it unlocked, sitting out in public for someone to take. You want to be very careful there. That can be a weak access point. Same thing with your computer. I mean, do some sort of virus scan on your computer on a regular basis to make sure someone else isn't in there getting your data and getting information from you. If you're traveling or working remotely, don't go on the coffee shop Wi-Fi or the airport Wi-Fi unless you have a VPN, especially if you're dealing with, personal. If you're reading the news, there's a lot less risk there. But if you're entering any personal information, it's very easy for people to jump on. So if you travel a lot or something, you can set up a VPN. You can use a VPN provider that creates a virtual private network on that. So that creates a layer, a stop there.
So you're saying if don't enter your private information when you're on, because I do use the Wi-Fi at the airport. Like if I'm playing a game or something, like is that okay?
I mean, it could provide, it does open
It's a
some
portal.
access to your device.
Okay.
So best practice would be don't use it at all. If you're playing Wordle on your iPad and you have your cell phone with you, if you have a hotspot on your cell phone, just join through your cell phone. That way it's a little bit more safe.
So don't do it, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, it's best practices not to do it. There's a lot of fake airports are particularly bad. There's a lot of fake airport networks that are easy and free to join, and then someone took your credit card information that's saved on your device. So be careful there. Yeah.
And like we have a virtual private network here. So if any of us are traveling and we lose either a phone or a computer or somebody steals them, somebody else can just kill them.
Yep. Yeah.
And then
It's a
it's
remote
useless to
shut
them.
off.
So too bad. Too bad it's gone.
Yeah, and a lot of companies have different versions of that. They won't allow you to sign on to, unpassword protected Wi-Fi, that kind of stuff. But personally, that's where the risk is. And I think many times it's easier for us to not put these safeguards in place. Like multi-factor authentication is a pain in the backside sometimes because, where did it go? What email address did it go to? And you're kind of searching for it. But it is a layer of protection. And trust me, that's less of a pain in the backside than having your identity stolen.
Right. Because the cleanup can take hours and hours and days and weeks and months to get to the bottom of. It is not an easy task once it happens.
Okay.
And getting things like a new social security number would stink. Because think about all the places that is.
Yeah. And that's it. I think the main thing is making sure that you're able to identify it, to stop it going forward. So we talked about some red flags today, trying to be able to limit our exposure to begin with, setting up the proper protocols ahead of time, whether that's second factor authentication, biometric scans on your cell phones or other devices, being careful what Wi-Fi networks you join and anything like that. And if it does happen, what to do, how to shut down your credit, make sure you're filing with the police, the FTC, setting up that PIN for the IRS. These are all things to help reduce the risk of identity theft or the impact that it would have on you. So, if you haven't already taken any of these, or if you're still using your dog's name as your primary password, we very much encourage you to take action to start implementing some of these things to curb your potential risk there. Ange and Wendy, thank you so much for joining me today. On our next episode, we're going to talk about year-end tax planning opportunities. For those of you listeners that are on the show today, we've created our 7 big retirement mistakes checklist. There'll be a link to it in the show notes. If you're getting ready or preparing for retirement, this checklist will help make sure you're on the right track. If you're unable to check off all the items on the list, make sure to give us a call to help get those items checked off. Until next time, remember to retire with intent so you can live your golden years with the happiness and excitement you deserve.